Hiya guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sean Hills and this is A Soul's Experience, a channel dedicated to helping the human race remember who we really are. There's a huge unanswered question in the spiritual and religious world at the minute, and I think religion might have actually had a part to play in the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because the question that I keep hearing, that I keep having conversations with people about, is, does good and evil actually exist? And I know from a human point of view it's very, very simple. There is good and bad. You put your hand in a fire, it hurts. That we would consider that to be a pretty bad day. Yeah, we've leant over to grab the coffee and the donuts and the croissant or whatever you're snacking on your coffee break, and the kettle spills, it goes all over your hand. You're not going to turn around and go, oh, that was a great human experience. Look at my flesh falling from the bone. How beautiful, how amazing, how magical. If only we could all be so enlightened. But from a human point of view, of course, we think and we feel there is good and bad. This is part of the survival mechanism to keep us safe down here on Earth. We were born naturally into a sort of fear-based reality, the fear of death. We must maintain our health. We must maintain our bodies. We didn't know why, apart from it was the natural encoded instinct for us to keep ourselves safe. We know as we get older it's so we can reproduce, we can live long enough for life to live and life to carry on living. And as we get older still and we learn, we start to learn, why is that important? Because the body houses consciousness. And consciousness is the part of us that never dies. It's the part of us that is always learning, always growing, always evolving. So, yes, from a human point of view, good and bad exists. But does it exist outside of this realm? It could definitely exist in other physical realms where the rules are kind of set the same, kind of good and bad, and for survival reasons, so life can live, so that they can reproduce. But in our natural state of being, in our spiritual state of being, do we still look at the experiences on Earth as good and bad? Do we look at them the same way as a human level? I kind of think no, because then there'll be no point coming and having a human experience, and we call it a human experience. So what is the spiritual experience? Well, I was having debates with some very amazing members of our community, some real great soul experiences who have really made me think with some great comments. I've had some great convos back and forth with some of these individuals. And it just so happened that whilst having these conversations, a video popped up with a woman called Julia Ryan. Yeah, that was it. Julia Ryan. She's a medium who's been speaking spirits for 30 years now. Trained for 6 years, and before that had a very different life. So owned businesses. She owned about 4 or 5 businesses. She was a businesswoman who went into spirituality. And so she said she discovered that no evil spirits exist. There's no such thing as an evil spirit, and that when a spirit, a pure spirit, a fractal of light of God, unconditional love, when an innocent, pure, beautiful, perfect spirit comes to Earth, they take on the persona of that character, the same way an actor would take on the persona of a character in a movie or in a play, or even a singer, the way that a singer takes on a persona as they're on stage. They don't go home to their loved ones and act like that and wear the skimpy outfits, or the guy who played Freddy Krueger didn't go home and start murdering his family. You know, it was an act. It was an act. And this woman says that when we come to Earth, we choose to act out these personas. Some of us choose to act and be very, very lovely. Some of us choose to be the bad guy, be the villain. And I'm sure there's always a great learning and purpose experience behind it. But there's going to be some massive questions that arises from this point of view. And there is a reason for that. Because we are all in our natural state of being loving beings. We are loving beings. But maybe somebody who chose to not be in a loving state of being, maybe they don't actually feel that way. I mean, it's easy for us as loving beings. I'm an empath, so I really struggle if someone's in pain. If someone's upset, I cannot just leave it, and that's probably something I should work on a little bit. Unless someone really needs help, obviously we should help. But I always try and, like, are you okay? How can I fix? How can I fix? I'm a fixer. I try and fix everyone's issues and problems, and oh, this needs doing, that needs doing, I can do that, I'll do that, you wait, no, you rest, you sit down, you rest. So for someone who's like that, it's very difficult for me. And if you're like that yourself, leave in the comment below. Are you an empath? Do you struggle with people suffering around you? Do you want to just fix everyone's problems as well? It's very hard for people like us to imagine not having that loving empathy that wants to stroke a dog, that sees your pet's water or food bowl empty and doesn't just want to, oh, you need a drink, you know, you can't do it yourself, let me do that for you. You know, I'm forever, you know, making sure my cat's okay, the guinea pigs, the dogs, the children, my wife. I just want to make sure they're all okay. So, is there people out there? Do you know somebody? Leave in the comments below. Do you know somebody who doesn't think like that? Who could see that a child or an animal was hungry or thirsty and, I'll do it later, I'll be fine, you know, they'll be okay. You know, and just be able to just leave them, even if they were like genuinely like, you know, I really need a drink. No, you can wait. You know, do you know people that can always put themselves? There's times where we have to put ourselves first. We have to prioritize. But is there people that in their natural state of being? There must be. There must be in their natural state of being to just not care about other living things. Anything at all, except if it benefits them. Now, we see examples of this and we see this play out in reality, but is that who they truly are? According to this woman, they're not like that. That isn't who they truly are. And when they pass away and they go back to heaven, because this woman also said that everybody goes to heaven, when they go back to heaven, they take off the meat suit that stays on earth. The persona, the narcissistic personality, the anger, the violence, the sexual depravity, whatever it may be, the selfishness, the addiction, the meanness, the spitefulness, the bully, it all stays on earth, and that spirit goes back to being perfect, absolutely beautiful piece of unconditional love, and is welcomed with open arms back in heaven, because it was just playing a role. But if this was the case, wouldn't it mitigate responsibility for all those people that have done horrendous things? Would it leave justice nowhere, floating like a cloud in the sky? Would it mean that everything we believe about good and bad, and honest men being able to be free, and nasty people being able to be held back from societies in prisons and jails, wouldn't it mean that we might as well just let everybody out and everybody can just run amok to do as they so please, to pleasure the body and the flesh, which goes against everything that we've ever been taught growing up through religions, faith, and basically moral based spirituality, where we are born to be good, to treat others good, to treat everyone as ourselves and as our neighbour? Or does this profound possibility free us from lower human emotions? Let's just think about this a second. What if every single person on the planet, who they truly were, who they were born to be, their spirit, their soul, that eternal part of them that never dies, that essence who makes them who they truly are, what if that part of them was always innocent? wouldn't that stop us from going, hey, you've done this and you've done that, and oh my God, what did I do? And if that's the case, if we can stop blaming and judging ourselves, would it free us of guilt? Would it help us see that we came here to play a role for whatever reason that we might not understand yet? It could just be simply for experience and to help God, the whole collective consciousness, understand who they truly are. Because if you are unconditional love, what better way to get to know who you are by finding out who you are not? I hear it all the time. How could a beautiful, loving God let this happen? Well, what if we are that beautiful, loving God, collectively gathering experience, separated, so we can grab a 360 point of view? Who could we blame them but ourselves? And what if we go a step further and we agreed to every single thing that happened to us and that we done to others? Where would the blame lie then? If it was contracted that I was going to come here and I was going to make these videos and I was going to say this stuff, I was going to cause some pain in your belief, in your reality. I was going to come and cause some unsettlings in your foundation. I was going to make you think, maybe, I've got to check this woman out. This Julia Ryan. Maybe I've got to check this Julia Ryan out. Maybe I've got to see what she's saying about this. Maybe it's going to make you think twice about everything you thought you ever knew. And that's what I signed up for. But then there's people saying, hey, how can you say that? How can you say that? Doesn't that go against everything that we were brought up with in Christianity and Catholicism and other Buddhism and everything else? Aren't we supposed to find Zen? Aren't we supposed to find this level of divinity inside of us and walk the path of Jesus Christ? Maybe some of us are. Maybe there is a lifetime for that. But maybe while that lifetime is happening for some of us, maybe there are assistants that have already gone through that process or aren't ready for that process yet. Maybe they're assisting other souls by being the bad guy so your light could shine. How could your light shine if there was no backdrop to shine it against? How could you say this person was a hero if you didn't have a villain? How could you say this situation is good if you couldn't have one that was bad? And maybe our whole reality is set up exactly perfectly for that reason. Contradiction. It gives it, what would we say? It gives it texture. It gives reality texture, doesn't it? Not knowing the next time you're going to get a bad toothache or an earache or you're going to get sick and it just comes on, oh, you're sick. And then a few days later, you wake up, you're healthy again. Whew, you lived through it, you're okay. Blimey, what an experience. I won't forget that. That's just added a bit of flavour to your experience. That's what it's done. And I'm not, this isn't coming from a guy who's lived a rosy, peachy life. And I'm not saying I necessarily know the answers to what this woman said. I'm not saying this is true. But it's an option. It's a possible option, and it could very, very well be true. We have to put ourselves in the mind of a spirit to know what our spirit is doing down here. We can't come from the angle of the human being. Because the angle of the human being is always going to be the angle of the human being. Unless we can find the spirit inside of us. So what would the spirit say? And more importantly, where does that leave responsibility for the human? Well, I believe the responsibility for the human is to remember who they truly are. It's what this channel is all about. I believe the responsibility of the human is to remember who they truly are. And if you're watching this video still, this is going to be the lifetime for you. There's something about this time in human history, this very, very time, in this moment in time and space. There's something extremely special about the lives we're all living now. Because in our natural state of being, it's very easy to say this woman's wrong. But there's something that makes so much sense about what she says. If we are all naturally loving and we are naturally caring, then that part of us, that spirit part of us, is what we would call our consciousness, and our conscience. It's our conscience. It's that part of us that knows right from wrong. And I believe some people take on the role really, maybe after many lifetimes, maybe, you know, I'm not sure what makes a spirit say, I want to be seriously the worst of mankind. I want to be that guy that needs locking up for eternity because I'm going to hurt hundreds of people. I don't know what makes a soul choose that route, other than it's the complete opposite of who they truly are. It's the complete opposite of who they truly are. And it's a minuscule amount of time, because time doesn't exist. So in human time, let's say 80, 90 years, this, what we would call this wicked person, wicked, evil person, this persona, wicked, evil persona, lived for 80, 90 years on this earth and hurt an abundant amount of people. Hurt an abundant amount of people. But in a place of no time, where time does not exist, where eternity is for eternity, and space is ever expanding, there is no edge, there is no beginning, there's no start, there's no end, it's just eternal. In that space, Wood coming to Earth for what seemed like 80, 90 human years, playing this persona, leaving heaven, a place of unconditional love, a place of everything is perfect, not a bad thought, not a bad word, no hate, no jealousy, not even knowing what hate would be. You've heard of it, possibly. Imagine you're there, you're in heaven. I've heard of this hate, I've heard of this fear. What is that? It's the opposite of what you are, love. The opposite of what I am. What? Wouldn't that, as spiritual beings, spark our curiosity? What is the opposite of who I truly am? Well, somebody who goes around hurting people. What? How is that possible? How can I possibly hurt people? Well, there's a place called Earth. There's a place called Earth. And you could go there. And you could be born as this, you could be born as a skinhead in the 60s. And you could be brought up as a right naughty child in the East End of London. And you could be brought up by a right naughty father who taught you some nasty stuff. And you were influenced in the wrong way. And you're going to commit some crimes, you're going to hurt some people, you're going to go to prison. How about that? Blimey. To a soul, maybe they're like, man, maybe they're looking at it like a book. Like, that's an action book, man, like a movie. Wow, look at that. Maybe they see the life play out. And they're like, wow, I get to experience that. Well, if it's not real, and I'm not actually going to really hurt, who are these people that I'm going to be hurting? Oh, they're just playing characters as well, don't worry. We all come back to heaven and have a big laugh about it afterwards. We all come back, and we all come back and we just talk and we learn and we grow from it. From a spiritual point of view, it is very possible that this is how they think. They're just going there for this experience. When we pay to go to a theme park, them adrenaline junkies out there, they want to go on the scariest, death-defying rides possible within legal limits. Stuff that if it goes wrong, you could definitely lose your life. What are them people doing? And they got their children on with them as well. What are them people doing? Paying money to put their lives in danger for thrills, to feel something. So what's the spirit doing? Coming here, down to earth, to put its life in danger, to feel something in the physical. It's the ultimate roller coaster ride down here. It's like one of the ultimate. It's like the galaxy is a giant theme park, and you got these dense planets, they're like the real roller coaster rides, man. I mean, there's war down there, and there's all craziness that can happen, and people are unpredictable, and there's poisons down there called alcohol and drugs, and you can get wrapped up in all this thing, and there is, but intertwined in it all is this love. The love exists down there still. There's love down there, and there's beauty, and there's animals, and it all exists amongst the chaos. And as a spiritual soul, what are we going to go down there, and we might be in the chaos, but we might see the beauty and find a way out. We might be in the beauty and only see the chaos and find a way down. Whoa, how's it going to go? Dunno, that's your free will. Here's your destiny. Boom, how are you going to live it? That's your free will. You're going to meet these people, you're going to get these jobs, you're going to do these things. But how are you going to react in them situations? Are you going to commit to that? Are you going to stay in that? Are you going to go this way, that way? Well, let's find out. It's like a roller coaster where you're part steering it, but you don't know it. You don't know that you're part steering this roller coaster. Which I'm on the wrong track, and you're blaming the conductor. Wait, I'm on the wrong track. It's your fault. Your fault. Your fault. Your fault. It's just an interesting way of looking at the subject of good and evil. And this is I've gone through some very, very painful experiences in my life. Losing my mum as a child. I was only 14 when I lost my mum. I was in care all before that, and went through some things, through the care system and children's homes, and been homeless and prison. So I've been through the mill. I'm only 38 and I've been through it already, like a few lifetimes it feels like. But it's I used to be in the victim mentality. I used to be that guy. It's because my mum was an alcoholic. That's why I became an alcoholic. It's because my mum died when I was 14. I got put in care and all that. That's why I started committing crime. Because of the boys in my children's home. They taught me how to steal cars. It was their fault. I blamed everyone else. I blamed everyone else around me. I even blamed God. God, if you exist, then you're a terrible God, I used to say. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? How could you give me this life, man? It ain't fair. And now there's a very strong possibility that I signed up for it all. And actually I believe that to be so. I believe, looking at where all of them, what I would call traumas, led me. They led me to having to look inside for some answers. And that's when I found out God was real. Yeshua was real. That's when I started seeing some magical things happen. Remote viewing, leaving the body, seeing visions, seeing the blinding white light of the divine, followed by a golden wave that turned into a golden cross that glistened right in front of my third eye. For mere seconds, I jumped out of my body through meditation, through trauma, I had to search, I had to keep going in and keep going in. It took months until the spirit world revealed itself to me. And then everything changed. My whole world changed. So all of them things that I would have called bad back in the day have all led to something I didn't think was possible. I've never seen a ghost in my life. I've never seen a spirit like that, like actual, just like walking in the room. But I've always searched, especially after losing my mum. I always wanted to know, will I see her again? And I can say hand on heart, 100%, yes, I will. 100%. Her essence has never left. She is all around me right now, loving me as I love her. Our relationship's still there. Different, but still there. And to know, because, I blamed her, how could you pick alcohol over your children? To feel that she came to play a role. She came to be the alcoholic, to cause the trauma, to die young, to cause me the trauma, to look inside, to search, to heal from the alcohol, to break the ancestral trauma of addiction. It was a beautiful play, and it played out perfectly how it was supposed to, and I'm still living it, and so is she. So is my mother, still there living it with me, just in spirit form, while my spirit is down here in physical. So there's going to be many people that are in pain that are like, that was caused by somebody else, and you're telling me that ain't a bad person. You know, how can you tell me that ain't a bad person? You're full of rubbish. There's going to be some pain. That's because you're in pain. It's because you're still feeling it from the human point of view. And that's natural. That pain is there for a reason. Because when you work through that pain, and you get over that pain, and you realise the lesson in that pain, once you realise the lesson in that pain, then you'll be a bit more clearer, a bit stronger, soul growth, consciousness growth for the whole of the consciousness of the universe. Every time we heal from a pain, we're healing everything as a collective. That's how important this shadow work, this self-healing is. And it takes years. I don't know, they call it three dark nights in a soul, or dark nights in a soul, 3 days, 3 dark nights, whatever it is. For me, it's been about 3 years. But I'm coming out of it, I'm like 95% through it, you know. And in that time, I've gone back and forth and left and right and every which way but Sunday. Every which way but Sunday. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting topic. The woman's name again, yeah, Julia Ryan. Julia Ryan. Check it out. Just check it out. Just see if it sits with you. And I just want to know, you know, it's a massive question. It's a massive question. But, however, there's one more thing I want to say about the subject, just really quickly before I go. We all have a conscience, which I believe never ever fully disappears. Even someone we would consider to be a psychopath, I do believe there is a possibility of finding divinity inside of them as they are still alive in human form, finding something that they care about other than themselves. It's finding the right thing. Their brains might not work the same as ours. They've been in this personality, but somewhere there is a conscience. I believe in every single one of us. So that kind of backs up the theory a little bit that everyone goes back to unconditional love. Everyone goes back to heaven if we all have a soul. There are going to be people that say there are some people out there without a soul. How can they have a soul and do what they've done? I mean, we can sit here and think of the worst crimes, and it is really difficult. Very difficult from my human perspective to say there's no evil, no bad. And I don't know if that's the truth. But there is definitely a great possibility that we are all just playing a role. It isn't the first time I've heard it from this woman. It's not the first time I've heard it. I mean, it's the first time I've heard from this woman, but it's not the first time I've heard that theory. I've heard it from near-death experiences, that they were just, it was all just a show, it was all just a play, it was all just like a learning experience. And then, you know, other people call it a school where we have to come and learn karmic lessons, and where does that come into play? And all people go into heaven, does that mean that we can just come here and do what we want, and then we're promised a life back in heaven? That goes against everything religion says. But it's just so many questions, and it's just so like, there's always going to be, because of our conscience, that part of us that says we don't like that. That's always going to exist. And maybe that's for a good reason. Maybe we have the ability, even though we chose to come here and put on these personas, sometimes a bit jealous, sometimes a bit aggressive, sometimes a bit loud, a bit silly, a bit stupid, a bit embarrassed, a bit anxious, a bit depressed, whatever it is. Maybe as co-creator souls of the universe, fractals of the light, maybe we know inside of us, well, I might go there with that persona, but you know what? I'm going to fix it. I'm going to heal it. I'm going to make that place better. Okay, good luck with that. Go on then. Maybe that's part of our free will. Maybe that's where that comes from, that no, bad must exist, because we want this place to be better. I want this place to be better. But if I look at my actual reality around me, I love my life. I do. I can see things that could be improved 100%. I don't like seeing people hungry on the streets and cold and animals suffering and stuff that goes on around the planet. You know, I don't like seeing any of that, and I wish that didn't exist. And maybe that's just where that comes from. Maybe that's just where that comes from, is that we're all part of that love, and we do want to make it better. And maybe that is also part of the game. Some of us come down to want to help. Some of us come down to try and destroy. I don't know who would want to choose to come down and destroy. Maybe we accidentally fall into that pattern sometimes through behaviours. There's so many. This is the thing. There's so many questions that I fear may never be answered. May never be answered, but we will always try our best on a soul's experience. So if you haven't already and you want to become a soul experiencer, then hit that subscribe button, like the video. It's a great question that we must start asking ourselves, not from the human level, but from the spiritual point of view of the human. Can we come from a co-created questionable part of you? Can we see that 360? Can we be that divinity, that unity? Can we be that question? Can we be that answer to that question? Who knows? Leave it in the comments below, guys. Whew, going deep, but we're going to go even deeper. Not right now, don't worry, the time has come. There's I do want to make the video All People Go to Heaven, so you know that's going to be a really interesting one, but it goes along the lines of this same video. We're not finished with this question yet, guys, so just take care of yourselves for now. Love yourselves, and for now I want to thank you for being down here on earth with me and all of us at this great time of awakening. It is tough, but it is beautiful, and if there's one thing we like on earth, it's a little bit of beauty. So please love those around you. Love your pets, love your animals, love your siblings, love your earth, love your Gaia. But most of all, don't forget to love yourselves. And I will see you all soon. Please take care of yourselves. Much love, and go and enjoy your day, guys. Whew, go and see if you can answer. I want to know. Go see if you can answer them questions. Does evil really exist, or are we all playing a role? Let me know in the comments below.
There's not much to do when all I can is thinking about you. Not doing well, don't know where you are, 'cause you're not here. It's been way too long.